Hello chess lovers, welcome back to my channel. Many of my friends have recommended me to put a video on checkmate with bishop and knight with systematic approach. So today I here present you the video. The first and foremost thing I want to remind you is we have 50 moves or less to deliver a checkmate, otherwise it's considered as draw, so every move pays for you. So how and where do we begin? Let's go for it. Firstly, our approach on beginning move is to centralize our pieces. Let me be more exact. Keep in mind that our knight is best coordinated with bishop 8 playing at the same color square of bishop on the center. In this case, we are talking about e4 and d5. Bishop is best coordinated at e4 and knight is best coordinated at d5. So let's optimize the position of bishop and knight. This took 10 moves and it will roughly take 10 moves to achieve this type of position. During this 10 move you will note that the black king is staying far away from this light corner square where we can force checkmate. Opponent is trying to put up as much edge resistance as possible by staying near this dark corner square. In fact, on step 2 we want to shift our king one step closer diagonally towards this dark side corner, and this is done first by making a waiting move. By the way, in this in-game waiting move are done with the king and the bishop, never the knight, so let's focus on it. What we do on step 3 is kick the king out of corner and then optimize our bishop and king position. When we are kicking the king out of corner, what's going to happen is that opponent will end up in one of the two large triangles. Now what large triangle I am talking about? I am talking about the following large triangle that we can generate starting first at this light corner square and drawing like so. He can end up in one of this triangle, and just to give a quick summary, once he is in one of those two large triangle, then we will try to kick him into middle triangle and then finally one of these two small triangle and then give checkmate. So let's see how we can do just that. In order to kick the king out of the corner, we need the help of our knight. He needs to control this corner square, and he could do so by playing f7 or g6. We are playing f7 on this case, and we could see that that is the square using the bishop as our reference point. It's the same square that the bishop can also go to. So let's get our knight to f7. But let's be a little bit careful about how we doing so. If we play g5 looking to get here, this is stalemate. So we want to avoid that, so we can do so by pivoting on d6 and only jumping into this f7 square. He is controlling this corner square. The black king is now very limited, having only one legal move, king g8. And now we shift our king over to h6. All the square I have highlighted are controlling, which means that the king is now forced in the direction we want them to go. Once he is on f7, once he is moving in this direction, we centralize our knight, and the only way to centralize our knight is to play to e5, one of those four central square. After king to e7, this is where we now optimize our bishop and knight position. The way we do this, envisioning this large triangle, we push the bishop one square away from the edge of the triangle. So in this case it's either b3 or f7, but we are not going to f7 because the king will be in charge of guarding the square near this edge of the triangle. So it's further end of triangle that we want the bishop to go up to. So in this case it's bishop to b3. And after king d6, we now push the knight right across from the bishop with one square separating them. Now take note of the great number of squares that the bishop and knight alone are controlling. They are forming a great wall, and as we can see here, there is no way for this black king to escape to a1 square. What we do from here is use our king and bishop to help push the king into that medium sized triangle. Now before we get to pushing the king into that medium sized triangle, let me just point out that you may encounter an opponent who runs away voluntarily from the dark corner square. So let me quickly revert back into this position right here where we saw the king go to the corner. What happens if the king tries to make a mad dash towards, let's say, this other corner? This is how we can treat such a player. We can play our bishop to this g8 square, and our goal with this is to post our bishop on the diagonal of the last triangle. We have done just that. The king still tries to run away. What we want to do next with our bishop is optimize him, and that's done by posting him right here one square from the edge. We want to get our bishop on c2, so we need to get our knight out of the way. If our bishop is on c2, we want to get our knight right here, so we post our knight on d6. The king still tries to run our knight get to c4. The king still tries to run our bishop plays here, and very similar to the position we just saw, this bishop and knight control all of this square and yet again form a great wall, and you would then push the king into this medium sized triangle in this direction, and finally the very small triangle right here. But he did not go in that direction, so let's get back to our original position. He did instead go to the corner. We ended up going about the position like so, where we have our bishop and knight controlling again all of these square, blocking the king off. So what we do from here is use king and bishop to push opponent king into this medium sized triangle. So let's do that next. We get our king and bishop working, and slowly but surely we are forcing him to move inside the medium triangle. And what we do now is shift our bishop. We no longer need our bishop in this diagonal, but rather the one on a4 where he is controlling the diagonal of the medium sized triangle. So we get our king working and our bishop working in this position. He was of course attacked. You want to similar to how we optimize the bishop in the large triangle, we do so in the medium sized triangle as well, one square away from the edge. In this case it is d7 or b5. If you go to b5 you are getting captured, so the bishop post up, he is optimized on this d7 square, and after king to b6, now where we can reposition our knight. Now from this point right here the knight is wanting to centralize himself on this d5 square, that is 3 squares away from the corner square where we want the king to be, and you want our knight on the d5. Let's get him there. First posting up on f4 after king to a5. The king is ready to run away, but our knight is there just in the nick of time to guard b4 square. And if we just take a look at again the bishop and knight dominant position, look at all the square that they are controlling. Yet again a great wall is being formed, and this king is now restricted to exactly this 6 square, just like we did in the large triangle. We now use our king and bishop to force the king into the small triangle. So let's see that take shape. That is done by having our king come over in this direction and push the opponent king up toward the corner square. So we get our king working all the way up here, and now we have opportunity to finally post our bishop on the diagonal of small triangle. Bishop c8, king attacks the bishop, bishop a6, king a7, and we could just make a waiting move at this point. King move and then play king to b6. Right here is really this final position that you want to achieve, where the bishop is on that diagonal and the king is right next to the bishop. From this position we have restricted the king to move just these 2 square, and from here all we are needing to do is deliver checkmate, and that's done like so. Moving knight to f6, we essentially just want to control b8 at this point with the knight eventually, and that happens soon enough. Bishop b7, king to b8, and finally knight to d7, and that's checkmate. So that's all for this video. As always, I hope you got something out of it. Take care.